You are ready to go. There you
All
are.
right, and there she is. Hello, everybody out there. This is Purse Strings coming into you I'm from Chicago. Maggie,
I'm in Cincinnati right now.
Stacy.
And I am in Colorado.
Oh, the wonder of
Ooh.
technology. Here we are together just about in the same room. So this is our 50 plus and fabulous group, which we're so glad to be a part of. And as you know, every Monday at this time, we come into this group and provide you these amazing experts who come to the table and share their expertise and information on something financial and something typically everybody could use, or maybe a friend, daughter, sister, mother, aunt can use. What Purse Strings does is we provide free content, online resources, tools, so that women can have resources that help them make smart financial decisions for themselves and for their families. Because we know when we arm women with the right facts and knowledge and money, they can be very, very powerful, more powerful than we are already. So the one thing Purse Strings does, besides offering all these free tools and resources, is we also have a full list of what we call our Purse Strings approved professionals. All things financial. So whether you're looking to buy a house, you might need a realtor or a lender, or let's say you need auto insurance, you just bought a new car, or life insurance, you just had a baby maybe, or like Stacy's going to talk about today, get some insights into college funding and paying off those college loans. So we have all things financial, so that women have go-to tips, tools, resources, free at your fingertips, provided by Purse Strings. And when we talk about our professionals, we seek out top-tiered financial professionals. It's typically referral-based only, where we look for those individuals who are top tier and really know the female market and really want to work and earn the female dollar. So that's the Purse Strings story and mission, and you can find us at pursestrings.co. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague and partner and beautiful daughter, Maggie.
Thank you for an introduction there.
Sure.
Yeah, we're so excited to be here today. Let me just give another minute or two to get a couple people to jump on.
Good.
You're really working it today.
Yeah. Well, the more people hear about Purse Strings, you know, they get more curious. More and more people are coming on, and it's really fun because we're starting to see kind of this ripple out effect where people are talking about Purse Strings. They're seeing the resources. We're not only in this Facebook group, but we have our own Facebook group. It's Purse Strings for Financially Fearless Women, free to join, welcome to join. And when you join that group, right at the top of the page, you have access to a free course. It's Purse Strings for Financially Fearless Women, and what that course does, it provides you all the foundations that you need to work through or should work through in your own household. So that would be, you know, your budgeting, your net worth, figuring out how to pay down that darn debt, any of that stuff, and setting up those goals, right? Those money goals. So that's a great free course. It's online. It's got a lot of worksheets, and that's free for the taking. So we'd love you to join our Facebook group as well. And we're in lots of other Facebook groups for divorced women or for other women in midlife, for younger women. We like to get women at any stage of life post probably 18 years old when they're starting to earn some money, all the way through a great, healthy financial retirement.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really fun. So, and everyone in this group we were requested to have questions about debt and have questions about college debt specifically answered. So that's why we brought on Stacey on this Monday. Stacey loves guiding women to increase their money confidence, educate them on money concepts, organizations, mindset, and give them the tools and process to eliminate debt, automate their budget, speak to financial professionals, and really live their best life. She really helps people who are overwhelmed, frustrated, scared, or defeated, because she's been there. She's She knows how that feels and she's ready to help. She's ready to chat about you and your money stories and give you strategies to improve your situation, to get on track for financial freedom and money confidence. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Stacey.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to be here. I'm in northern Colorado. It's a little rainy here today, which is kind of nice. And I hope you're all doing well wherever you are located. Thank you to Purse Strings for allowing me to come on and educate you and answer your questions about student loan debt. I know it's an overwhelming topic that students, recent graduates, their parents, and even grandparents all have questions about. We're all wondering what's going to happen when forbearance is over and how all the implications are going to affect our loved ones. So I'm going to share a little slideshow with you. And if you have comments or questions, you can leave them in the comment section, and Maggie will ask me those as we go. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep, I have it up there and it looks great.
Okay, great. So as I said, my name is Stacey Swanson. I'm with Wealth and Women, and we are going to talk about student loan debt today. And here's some of the topics we're going to cover. Student loan statistics, the effects on the family, forbearance, which was what we're in right now with the federal government, private loans, deferment, loan forgiveness, loan consolidation, and taking loans seriously. And then I'll have some resources for you at the end. All of this information is readily available on the internet, and we always recommend that you start with your loan provider if you have any questions. And I know some of these topics seem overwhelming and like, what do they mean? And I'm going to explain all that to you. So some of the statistics about student loans, in 2019, student loan debt reached $1.71 trillion, and that outpaced both auto and credit card debt in America. And it became the most significant debt of all for all Americans, which is pretty amazing. I mean, that's a lot of debt. 11 to 15% of student loan debtors default on their student loans, and most of this information is prior to COVID and the forbearance. So things have gotten like worse since then. 22.3% of families holding student loan debt increased from 8.9% in 1989. So I guess that shows maybe a lot more kids are going to college, but a lot more kids are doing so using student loans. The average amount of student loan debt per person is $34,290, and the average Parent Plus loan amount, and this is once the child graduates, is $37,200. So it's not just students who are accruing debt, it's also parents and sometimes grandparents. And the average student loan monthly payment is $300. And again, that was prior to the forbearance. Student loan debt effect on families. So after graduation, which a lot of students aren't thinking about when they're going to school, or their parents for that matter, is that they're going to graduate, and 6 months later, because there is a grace period, while you're in school, at least half time, and then the 6 months after you graduate or finish school, there's a grace period where you don't have to make any payments towards your student debt, which is nice, but also causes, more debt to happen. And so these 24, 22-year-old children, basically young adults, graduate, and they have the world before them and lots more opportunities now that they have that degree in their hand. But they are faced with up to $30,000 in debt or more, depending on what their degree is in. And some of those kids maybe aren't finishing school even, or don't get the job that they were hoping for after graduation. And so it's kind of like they have this promise that if you go to school, all these wonderful things are going to happen. But not only do you finish and not and have all this debt, you might not finish, or you might decide this isn't for me, this isn't what I want to do, but you still have to pay back that student loan debt, and that's of course not fun. And then parent loans, something to think about there that is affecting the families is that parents are often in their 40s and 50s when they're taking out these loans to help their kids pay for college. And maybe it's too close to retirement. Are they going to be able to pay off their parent loans before they retire, so they're not retiring with that debt? Are they taking into consideration the cost per month that they're going to have to pay? And especially if their student doesn't retire in doesn't finish school, graduate in 4 years, maybe they decide to change their major or get their master's or the PhD, then we're talking lots more years of parent loans if you're going to help your kids with that. And that takes more time to pay off. So the other thing we're seeing is that grandparents, students going to their grandparents and asking for them to take out a student loan or a parent loan for them. And often that is way too close, or they're already in retirement. And then those grandparents are saddled with that debt that they probably aren't going to be able to pay off in their lifetime. And maybe the student doesn't finish school. So there's lots of things to consider when your child or your grandchild is thinking about going to college. It's great to sit down and talk to them about what do you really want to do, and map out the costs and actually show them. Because I think, as an 18-year-old or 17-year-old, sometimes you don't realize the cost that it's going to incur to go. And there is a social norm that, oh, your kid's supposed to go to college. Well, maybe that's not the best decision for them, especially if they're going to be saddled with debt, and you are as well. So it's something to consider ahead of time. So planning for college and avoiding pitfalls. Educating yourself and the student, that's what I was talking about, where there is actually people that you can hire to help guide you through this. There's so much information on the internet that you can look for and find yourself, and even your child's counselor at school, or if they're already in college, maybe their advisor and financial aid office. All those places can help you decide what is the best plan. And of course, if you do this as a family, then you're all aware of the consequences. Your student is aware that if I go to college, this is going to cause this for my parents or my grandparents or whoever's helping them out. So make sure you do this as a family and really talk it through. Saving throughout a student's childhood, and this is plans that we've all heard of, like the 529 plan, which is a great tool that will earn interest over time, and your financial advisor can help you calculate how much you need to invest per year or month to get to a certain point by the time your child is ready for college. The one thing you need to understand about 529 plans, though, is if your student decides not to go to college, there's not as many options of what you can do with that money. So you could pass it on to a younger sibling or even a cousin. They do allow you to do that, but to actually use the money for something else is not going to happen unless it's maybe a community college or a, if they want to become a welder or something, and there's a school for that, or cosmetology school, sometimes you can use it for that. But just make sure before you enter into a 529 plan that you know all the qualifications and the pitfalls, because if you can't use it for your student's education to take the money out, they're going to charge you huge penalties, sometimes up to 50%. So make sure you're aware of that. There are other options to save for your child's college, and I would be happy to talk to you about those. Discuss and plan for the cost. So like we said, map it out, make sure everyone knows Maybe your child can work in high school and help pay for some of the college. You can also take classes during high school to offset some of the costs. Usually it's way less expensive to take a college course during high school than it is to actually enroll in college after high school. And then, like I said, considering is college the best option, maybe that's not what your student wants to do, and don't make them feel like that's the only option. And then there's lots of companies and programs that help you plan for it and also pay off college debt if you already have it. So do a lot of education. So forbearance on federal loans. So if you did not know, the forbearance that first President Trump and now President Biden have put in place, where we don't have to make our student loan payments. Currently, it's through September 30th. It started last March. Those are only for federal loans. So if your student got a private loan, it's not going to count towards the forbearance, which I'm sure they already know. The private loan students will still have to make their payments, and we'll talk about that in the next section. So right now we're talking about federal loans. So your options during forbearance, and what forbearance means is no interest is being accrued on the loans, which is amazing. All money paid goes 100% towards principal. So many of us I also have student loans. I just graduated 6 years ago from college. So we haven't had to make any payments. So if you do decide, hey, I have extra money, I would like to pay down my debt, which would be amazing. Instead of your $300 payment, 50% maybe going towards interest, or maybe 15%, a whole 100% goes towards the principal amount of the loan. So that will help pay it down faster, and this will be in effect as long as the forbearance is going on, which right now, like I said, is through September 2021. If your student or the student loan is in default or delinquency, the collection activity on those accounts is on hold during forbearance, and it gives you an opportunity to rehabilitate your loan. So again, this is a time where you can contact your loan provider and ask them questions. I mean, you can always do that, but this is a great time to start preparing, which is my next section on the right. When forbearance is over, we need to prepare for the end of the forbearance, because come October 1st, those loan payments are going to start happening again. I'm sure you'll start receiving more and more information from your loan providers, and you can find lots of information on the internet, but you need to prepare for that time, especially if you were delinquent or in deferment or defaulting on your loans prior to March 2020. It's important to create a budget so that you are including the payment in your budget and that you're going to be able to afford it. And if you feel like you can't, if you're still struggling because of COVID, maybe you're unemployed, there's lots of options. Again, you need to contact your loan service provider. And then, like I said, speak with a lender if you need to do a deferment. And we'll talk about deferment here in a second. So private student loans, there's no forbearance for private loans. Private loans would be, say, from a local bank, a local credit union, obviously a family member or someone you know. So you just need to realize that interest is still accruing on those loans. So, and that many private lenders do have disaster or emergency forbearance in place. So this is something that they offer all the time. So if you're struggling and you can't make your payments, and maybe you haven't been making your payments and you're going into delinquency, you need to contact your loan provider and talk to them. And this is my theme throughout the whole talk, is that is your first go-to place. They're going to have all the answers. They're going to be very kind and work with you. They understand that people are having issues right now, and there's all kinds of options that they can offer you and walk you through. So just know that with the private lenders, this forbearance or disaster help would be short-term. The interest will still accrue during this time, unlike the federal loans. And just know that you have an option that you can refinance those loans. Now, you can't refinance them to federal loans. So wherever you refinance them, you're still going to have the same issue where there is no forbearance. But you might be able to maybe consolidate several loans together, so they're all in one place. You might be able to get a better interest rate. If one of your student loans, if you have several, is maybe has a better interest rate, you don't have to include that one. You don't have to do all of them. And like I said, there you cannot make private loans federal again. So this is something really important. If you have federal loans that are currently in forbearance, when it comes time, or even now, if you decided, oh, there's a great interest rate, or I want to consolidate all of these several loans, once you consolidate them, they will become a private loan, and any forbearance or forgiveness in the future, which they're talking about doing, and we'll talk about here in a minute, that will all go away. So just make sure you think about that before you refinance. And there's also predatory debt consolidation companies. So just make sure that you're, being very careful of who you talk to and who you consider for refinancing. And if you're behind on your payments, again, reach out to your current lender. Deferment. So this is different from forbearance or forgiveness. Deferment allows one to temporarily halt their payments. And this is usually tied to a qualifying event, usually being enrolled in school half-time. So like I stated before, if your student is enrolled at least 6 hours of credits, then they don't have to pay their loans during that time. And they also are not accruing interest. So this is a great time to make payments, actually, even though, you're going to school. It's nice. And sometimes people use this as a way to, oh, I can't afford to make my payments, I'll just go back to school. Or I need some extra money, I'll go back to school. And that's something to really think about doing. Do you really want to do that? Because it's just going to prolong the debt and add to it, obviously. And then another qualifying event is significant financial hardship, which some would consider is what the pandemic is, and of course, unemployment. So if you're receiving unemployment benefits, you can get a deferment on your student loans. When you defer, there's no impact on your credit or your FICO score, and it works for subsidized federal loans and Perkins loans. And I'll have some resources at the end to help you figure out which kind of loans you have. If you've missed payments but loans not yet defaulted, deferment can help be applied retroactively to let you catch up, but you need to contact your loan provider as soon as possible to talk to them about it. And then here's one of the resources, studentaid.gov, where you can create an account and you can see what type of loans you have and who is your loan provider if you don't know. And then you would want to go to your loan provider and create an account there and contact them about any of these questions or qualifying for deferment. And there'll also be lots of information on their website. So types of federal loans, direct subsidized loans, and then direct unsubsidized loans. So it's really important to know the difference in which kind of loans you have. The subsidized have better terms and available to undergraduate students only, not graduate students. Your school pays the interest while you're in school at least half time, and for the 6 months after you leave school, which is that grace period, and during a deferment. And then direct unsubsidized loans are federal loans available to undergraduate and graduate students. You don't have to show that you need this, you have financial need, which is great. And the student are responsible for paying the interest during all periods. So it's very important to understand when you're applying for a loan, when you're granted loans through your financial aid department at school, that you make sure you understand this. And this is part of that education piece. If you choose not to pay their interest while you're in school and during grace periods and deferment, your interest will accrue and be capitalized, which means it's added to the principal of your loan, and that's only on the direct unsubsidized loans. So again, all this information you can find on websites, and if you have any questions about your loans, please reach out to your service provider. So another option if you're having trouble paying your loans is income-driven repayment plans. So this helps make payments more manageable by reducing the monthly payment amount. They will talk to you about how much you're making and what you can afford, and it's based on your current income. And usually the payment amount increases over time. So say you owe, $30,000, maybe for the first year your payment's, $85, and then it goes up to $130, and so each year the monthly payments are going to increase, and that can be adjusted. Say 3 or 4 years into it, you get laid off and you're unemployed again, then you can contact them again and go through the process again. So loan forgiveness, and we'll talk about 2 different types. Right now, there's lots in the news about President Biden forgiving student loans up to $50,000 a person, and also maybe a lesser amount of $10,000 per person. So this would totally take away $10,000 of each current person who has a federal student loan debt for going to college, which sounds amazing. I mean, wouldn't we all want to have our student debt forgiven? But if they do the $50,000 per person, that would total $3 trillion based on the number of people that currently have student loans. And so I know some people are talking about, well, I'm just going to not make payments once forbearance comes back, because then I'll be throwing my money away, because when they sign this into law or make this a law, then we will get everything paid off. Well, that's, first of all, very unlikely that it's going to happen. The news about it changes daily. Currently, they don't need an executive order, which would be the president signing it into order. Now it's able to be passed by Congress or Senate. And so it's getting easier to be passed, but there's lots of people who are very upset about this because, one, many people have already paid off their student loans, and what about them? And two, it's going to increase the debt, the national debt, because they've already given us, lots of money for the incentive checks that we've received, which has cost the government a lot of money. So to add another $3 trillion to pay off everyone's student loan debt, doesn't sound very feasible, but it's something, no matter what, don't count on this. When October 1st comes, you still need to be ready to make your payments. This could take a year or more to figure out, and if it even happens. So don't plan on that. And if you're interested in what's happening, you'll just have to follow it in the news daily, literally. It's going on all the time. But there are other options for loan forgiveness that are there all the time for several different categories. One, if you work for the government for at least 10 years, and I think it's making 120 consecutive payments. I don't know how that's going to affect with the forbearance, but that means making your payments every month for 10 years, then they'll forgive the rest of it. If you work for the government for 10 consecutive years and can prove that. There's another one for teachers. If you work, I think it's 3 years in a low income school district, they'll forgive your debt. If you have a total permanent disability that you can prove, they'll discharge the rest of your debt. Rare cases with a bankruptcy, again, you'll have to talk to, if you're thinking about a bankruptcy, a lawyer, and then also your loan provider. So don't count that that's going to work with that. Eligibility for parent borrowers, mainly it's based on your student becoming permanently disabled, or something happening where, say, their college goes out of business, basically, then you don't have to pay back sometimes. Or if the college messed up and gave you financial aid that you didn't qualify for, or maybe you quit college and the college didn't refund back the government for the rest of the semester. All of those things would be a reason that you could possibly get a loan forgiveness. And then if you had a Perkins loan Maybe there was a cancellation with your Perkins loan, and that is another way to get it discharged. But to get this loan forgiveness, one, you have to apply for it. And while you're going through the application process and waiting to hear the decision, you still have to make your payments. Loan consolidation is, we talked about that a little bit earlier. That's where you put several student loans into one loan with one servicer, usually at a better interest rate. So the pros of this is you can lower your monthly payment because often you can get a better interest rate. It switches variable interest rate loans to fixed rates. So that means instead of your interest rate being based on, say, the market, it will be one rate throughout the life of the loan, which is nice. And you may gain access to additional income-driven repayment options. But the cons of loan consolidation is it lengthens the repayment period. So just like when you refinance your home, maybe you only owed, 10 more years on your student loans originally. Well, now it might be longer based on what you talk and negotiate with your new provider. So you want to make sure that what the length of time is. And then also you are going to pay more interest over that time. Even though the interest rate is lower, if it's a longer amount of time, it might cause you to pay more interest. Plus, the outstanding interest on your current loans will become principal on the new loan. And so you're kind of paying twice more than you would have if you would have kept it the other way. It may cause you to lose borrower benefits associated with your current loans, and consolidating federal loans into private loans cannot be reversed. So you would not be granted forbearance in the future. So it's important to take student loans seriously. It seems like in today's economy that many people feel like, oh, that's not important. What are they going to do about it if I don't pay? It's just kind of like this attitude that it seems a majority of people have, where if they don't pay their student loans, nobody's going to come after them, which isn't true. They will take you to collections. Or they think, well, I'm never going to go back to school and try to get another student loan, so it doesn't really matter if I pay this, or I'll take care of it down the road. And we just tend to put it at the bottom of our list of important debts to repay. But everyone needs to be responsible for all of their debt incurred because the government loans you money so you could get an education. So even if you did not graduate, did not achieve the career you desired, or you do not want to return to college, it's still important to prioritize your payments for your student loans, make them on time, and if you can't, to contact your loan provider, so that you can work out something with them, which is a great thing because, most loans you take out, that's not an option. So it's important, again, to show students what this will cost them. And it's great to do this at the beginning if you can, before they even decide to go to college or, are signed up or ready to go. But it's great to map it out by year and show them this is how much it's going to cost per year. This is how much time it's going to take you while you're in college, and then time to pay it back for both the student and the parent. And really show them the impact on their life and to their parents and grandparents, whoever's helping them, so that they can make a good financial decision. Because I think a lot of us just say, oh, Jimmy's going to college. Well, we'll go to the high school and talk to the counselor, maybe go to a little class about what it takes to sign up for scholarships. Maybe we'll, go to visit the college, of course, and talk to financial aid there and talk to someone. But we do all the stuff ourselves, and we don't really include the student, and they're not really part of the forms and all the paperwork and all that it takes to sign them up for college and get them going. And without educating them and ourselves and using all the resources available to us, it does a disservice to the student, because then again, like I said, they're going to graduate and have no idea what they got themselves into, and this way they can make an informed decision. It's great to create a budget showing all the costs. This is how much the dorm costs. Maybe you choose to have them stay at home because it's cheaper than paying for the dorm and the food And then, of course, the cost of the books and supplies, and show them what financial aid is received, and what monthly payments will look like after college. And so that they understand all the consequences, and do the same for the adults who are borrowing money, whether that's parents or grandparents, whoever. Will you retire before the debt is paid off? Can you afford the payments now, let alone later when maybe your income is less or you're already retired? So very important to think about all those things. So here's a resource page. collegefinancialprep.com is a company and a website that can help you figure all that stuff out. They have lots of good information if you're preparing to go to college, things to think about, counseling service, all kinds of great stuff. Studentaid.gov is part of the government. That's where you go to, you can look up anything we talked about today. And I didn't really mention scholarships, but if your student is already in school and finished with school, then that doesn't count. But if they're still going to school or thinking about it, scholarships are a great way to help defer the cost of college. And there's so many out there. Again, something you can Google and just find and ask your counselor. Get.vault.co is a company that tries to work with employers to help them help their employees pay off their student loan debt, which is amazing. FAFSA.ed.gov. This is where you go starting in October, before the following year when your student's going to go to college, where the parents would put in all their tax information. This helps decide who gets how much money for financial aid, what kind of financial aid is it? Is it grants or loans? And then beware of fake sites for FAFSA that try to charge you to apply for that. And then again, your number one resource is your loan provider. If you already have student loans, please reach out to them, because they are going to have all the information about your specific loans. They're going to be able to answer all your questions and have programs to help you if you can't make your payments. Often your employer or your student's employer might have programs where they reimburse you for college expenses, or even pay for all of your college if you get certain grades. Your student's counseling department at school will have a wealth of information, especially about scholarships and all kinds of grants and programs within your state or maybe your county or town that are available to your student for college. And then your student's college advisor or financial aid office is also a great resource and can answer any of your questions about current loans that you already have. And then google.com, just search. There's so much information out there. It's really, really important to educate yourself. And thank you for listening today. I hope I made things a little more understandable. There is a wealth of information about student loans, college, and paying for college. And mostly I just want people to understand that, first of all, your kid doesn't have to go to college. You know, it's something that you need to consider the cost and everything that goes with it besides just the education they will get. And these days it seems like people can get amazing jobs even without an education, which is cool. And then also I'm an insurance provider, and I can help people if they do have debt and talk to you about it and help you figure out how to pay it off. I'd be glad to help.
Thank you so much for that. That was quality and thorough and organized. I mean, I didn't expect anything less, but I was like, wow, this makes a lot of sense.
It's a lot. It's really a lot. And that's not even everything. I mean, you know, you could go on and just find so much more information. And I know everybody's situation is different.
Right.
Like I said, maybe you're a grandparent, maybe you're a parent, and you just want to help your student, you know, get on their feet and figure out a way to pay it off and not let this be a huge burden on their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I do have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate how you bring up, you know, not counting on that $10,000 and just, you know, planning ahead, because it is something we have to do, and we can't put all our eggs in one basket, you know, because who knows what's going to happen.
Right. Well, as an accountant, I really hope that they don't do it in a way because it's, the federal debt is just already incredibly large, and to add 3 trillion to it seems crazy, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind my debt being paid off either. So
Right.
both sides of it.
I understand that for sure. And so can you expand or say a little bit more about what a 529 plan is?
So I'm not an investment advisor, so I'm not, fully informed, but it's basically just for planning for college. And I do know that, of course, it earns interest over time. So basically, the parents or grandparents create an account for one child, and you put so much money in there a month. Again, like I said, a financial advisor could help you figure out how much you would need to, what kind of school do you think they'll go to?
Right.
This is how much it costs right now. This is much how it costs in 20 years, and then help you figure out how much that would cost per month or year. And then obviously you would want to not take anything out of it over that time while they're growing up, and just let it build and build. But again, like I said, it's very strict. So once it's time for college, and if the student does go to college, they're going to have to send a bill to that person who owns the 529, so say the parent.
Oh.
The parent would take it to their financial advisor. The financial advisor would cut a check or send the money directly to the college. So it's not like, here, Joe, here's your money for college,
It's interesting. It seemed like it would just be like a bank account that you could take money from at some point.
So it's kind of like the student really doesn't have access to it. It goes directly for college, and that's how it does so well, because it's not, accessible, and it's only for education. But again, like I said, if your student decides not to go to college, which who knows, right? We have no control over them.
Right. And like you were saying, there is so much great education out there that's for free, or, a $40 online class, or, it's way cheaper than a $40,000 still online class.
Yeah. And I also read that if they do the loan forgiveness, if Biden decides that, it actually will make increased college tuition costs. So that's not good.
No, it's not, because they're already pretty high.
Yeah. We all know that.
That was awesome. Yeah, increase the cost of college. Oof, it's so expensive. And Maggie knows this. Don't even get me started about student loan debt. It makes me crazy, because you're taking out these exorbitant loans for what you don't think is always a return on your investment, depending on what you're studying. And I've read so many sad stories about people who have taken out a lot of loan debt, and the worst thing is if they don't finish school. That's like the worst scenario, because they've all unless they get a different job that they could afford to pay it back. But so often, if the child loses interest or just can't make it, it's that. And then the other thing, and Maggie and I've had a lot of conversations about this, when they're going to school, there's so much peer pressure about where are you going, and where are you staying, and what's your dorm, and everyone's got to do this. You gotta kind of be in the flow of it all. Well, not everybody can afford to be in all of that, and many people who can't afford don't feel like they cannot back out of it.
Well, and the worst part about not finishing is for the parents or the grandparents who took out that loan, because it really doesn't benefit them, and now they have this debt.
And I'm not really a person that would say a parent or grandparent's responsible for a child's education at college. I think there's a lot of ways to get to school. I think if they have the funds to contribute, that's one thing. But I think at that point, the college person should have skin in the game and know what it costs to go to school, and be responsible and take ownership. It's their education. So
right. And with my kids, their grandparents were putting away money in a 529 plan, which is there. It's the money is there. But since I divorced their dad, they will only pay for half of her school. And so who would have ever thought, I wouldn't have thought, well, I need to start my own 529 plan, so all those kind of things, you just don't know what's going to happen. And
And you really have to look at the child. You know, what do they want? Where do they want to go? Where do they fit in? What will be best for them? We can't stress them out to try to make them do things that maybe they're not ready for.
Well, or
And
that peer pressure,
yeah,
but maybe you can't afford it or it's not
right.
feasible.
Yeah, and there's so many amazing like technical schools, like hairdressers. They make a ton of money. Or
Yeah.
plumbers or electricians. I mean, we need these people. So not everybody needs to spend, you know, $40,000 a year to go
Right.
away to school. There's so many other talents and skills. I mean, computer work. It's
Yeah.
amazing. There's so many options these days. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Did you have some questions, Maggie?
Let me see if any more came through. I didn't have too many. It just seemed so thorough. Dr. Barb, did you have any questions?
You know, I was a little confused on the subsidized versus unsubsidized. Is it just that one is for undergrad and the other one is for undergrad and graduate school?
Right, plus the interest part. So
Yeah, the interest part.
yeah,
But the word subsidized threw me off a little bit. But
yeah. So the interest is accruing even if you're in deferment. So while
yeah,
you're in school,
yeah,
basically, where the unsubsidized, is that what it was?
yeah, that was right. They don't charge you interest until you're done. But
Yeah.
is that, do you know, is that compounded interest or is it simple? Do you know?
No, I do not know.
I hope it's not compounded because that would be a lot of money.
We
Well,
do
you know,
have,
you do have to make it back. I mean, maybe instead of forgiving all of the loans, they should just forgive the interest, which was something I read in the article that
Well,
people were
that's not a
proposing.
bad idea.
Yeah,
bad idea.
don't forgive the debt, just forgive the interest, so people can
Yeah.
just pay back what they owe, you know, for school.
Yeah. And the
But
largest holder of student loan debt are women.
Mhm.
And that, you know, pings my heart a little bit because women need to overeducate themselves to get a job on the same level as men. So they're
To get
trying
paid
to,
less.
yeah, they're trying to upscale themselves to qualify for the same kind of jobs that men at less educated levels get. So that's why women are trying to are out earning degrees and things like that. So they are holding the student loan debt. So when you break it down to who's got this debt and who's holding it and how much are they holding, a lot of it falls on women. So
We do have one question here, and saying that, you know, they've heard that many teachers are not given this forgiveness after the 10 years. Is there a percentage that you're familiar with? Someone says, my daughter meets the criteria you mentioned, but we have not found her options to be helpful. Any thoughts or advice?
wow.
no, I don't know so much about the forgiveness. I've heard the same thing. I was in government for several years, and somebody told me recently that that wasn't going to happen anymore or something. They were taking it away. So, you know, if they forgive everybody's student loan, well, I guess then we wouldn't need it, but then the future people are probably not going to get any kind of forgiveness because, you know, they're already messing up their future. But no, I'm sorry, I don't know the percentages. And I know it is, though, only for low income teachers and low income, you know, because that's where teachers usually don't want to teach.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're kind of benefiting them. But I'm sorry, you know, without checking out with your provider, I don't know, or maybe a teachers union or something like that could help.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
yeah. Or like you had a lot of really good, I'm looking at my notes, a lot of really good sites that you can go to too.
Yeah, and let me see.
Studentaid.gov maybe or something like that. I don't know. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
so that's where I found the list of all the forgiveness options, and then there was links within there. So
that might be a good site to start at.
Sounds great.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have Vicki Volweller, who does a lot of that financial or college prep work. And she's a purse strings approved professional too. So
Yeah,
she does a
and
lot
hers
of
is-
that pre-work. Yeah.
Yeah, hers is the link at the bottom that I put under resources.
The
I think
college
that's so
financial prep.
important. Yeah, because I remember when my daughter was a junior at high school, you know, they had a thing for the parents that we went to, and I felt like it was pretty self-explanatory unless you had a student who wanted to play sports in college, then it was a little more complicated. But still, what a process.
I know.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to reach out to those counselors and ask them for help. They will help you with sample scholarship applications, and they can really help a lot with your student if they're interested and if you seek their help.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely
it's a
great
process.
resource.
Yeah. Well, this was great. This was really helpful. It really covered all the basics, and there's a lot of them. To
It
really,
is a lot. It's a
yeah.
lot.
You have a lot to learn and wade through, you know, when you're diving into something like this, when you're really investing that kind of money in somebody's future return, you know. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Stacey, for coming on today. You can always reach Stacey at Wealth and Women, and that is wealthandwomen.com. And she's
.net.
also .net.
Yeah.
Wealthandwomen.net.
Thank you.
And she's also one of our purse strings approved providers, so you can find her on our list at pursestrings.co. So Stacey, thank you so much for coming on today. And if you have any more questions, please reach out.
Thank you, everyone. Have a
See
good
everyone
afternoon.
next week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.